Now, Saudi Arabia has scaled back its medium-term ambitions for the development of NEOM. The project is part of the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's plans for diversifying the oil-dependent West Asian economy.
Saudi Arabia built its name on oil, but now, in the desert, it is building something entirely different, a giant green hydrogen project that could help decide how energy will move across the world in the years ahead. 1. The kingdom's new gamble. For generations, Saudi Arabia's power came from oil wells, tankers, and export terminals that fed the modern world. But now, the kingdom is making a new bet in NEOM's Oxagon region, where it is backing the NEOM Green Hydrogen Company project. According to the project partners, this is an $8.4 billion joint venture between NEOM, ACW Power, and Air Products. That number alone makes people pay attention. But the real reason this project stands out is what it represents. Saudi Arabia is not just building another industrial facility in the desert. It is trying to prove that a country shaped by hydrocarbons can also become a major player in the cleaner fuels of the future. And that shift gives the story its weight. Oil built the kingdom's first energy empire. Now, Saudi Arabia is trying to open a second chapter, one that depends not on drilling more crude, but on building a new kind of export machine. 2. Inside the NEOM Green Hydrogen Megaproject. At Oxagon on the Red Sea coast, this project is being built at a scale that few clean energy developments have matched. Official plans say the facility will run on around 4 gigawatts of dedicated solar and wind power. That renewable electricity will be used to make up to 600 tons of carbon-free hydrogen per day, turning desert sun and wind into industrial fuel. What makes this more than a headline project is that it is no longer just an idea on paper. NGHC has said construction moved past 80% completion across all sites by early 2025. That gives the project a different feeling. It is no longer a futuristic concept. It is becoming physical infrastructure rising from the sand, and that changes how the world sees it. This is not simply a clean energy dream being discussed at conferences. It is a real facility taking shape, and that makes the next part of the story even more important. What exactly will Saudi Arabia do with all that hydrogen once it is produced? 3. Why the project uses green ammonia. The answer is simple. Hydrogen is useful, but it is difficult to move across long distances in its raw form. That is why the NEOM project plans to convert its hydrogen into green ammonia, which is easier to store, transport, and ship to global customers. Air Products says the complex is expected to produce up to 1.2 million tons of green ammonia annually. That decision is what turns this project from a desert fuel plant into a global trade story. Ammonia is already a known industrial product used around the world, especially in fertilizers and other heavy industries. So Saudi Arabia is not trying to create an entirely new trade system from scratch. It is plugging green fuel into a form the global market already understands. And that may be the project's smartest move. Making clean hydrogen is one challenge. Making it tradable is another. If Saudi Arabia can do both, then this project will not just produce energy. It could help change how energy itself is bought, shipped, and sold across the world. 4. The machinery that makes it possible. Behind the headlines, the project works through a chain of systems that all depend on timing and precision. Renewable electricity from solar and wind will power electrolyzers, which split water into hydrogen and oxygen. From there, the hydrogen moves deeper into the industrial process, where it becomes part of a larger export-ready fuel system. But this is not as simple as flipping a switch in the desert. Sunlight changes by the hour. Wind speeds rise and fall. Industrial plants, meanwhile, demand stability. That means the real achievement here is not just generating clean energy, but coordinating power, water treatment, fuel production, storage, and logistics in one connected flow. And that is where the project becomes more impressive than it first appears. It is not just a power site, and it is not just a chemical complex. It is an attempt to turn variable renewable energy into a stable industrial product that can survive the journey from desert production to international delivery. 5. Why the world is paying attention. The world is watching because green hydrogen still occupies only a very small place in the real energy economy. The IEA says hydrogen demand today is still dominated by traditional uses, such as refining and industry, and most of that hydrogen is not low emissions. So while hydrogen gets huge attention in speeches and strategy papers, the clean version is still far from mainstream. That is exactly why NEOM stands out. The IEA said in its 2024 review that announced global electrolyzer projects could reach nearly 520 gigawatts by 2030, yet only about 4% of that capacity had reached final investment decision or was already under construction at that point. That gap between announcement and execution is one of the biggest themes in the hydrogen story. So this Saudi project matters because it is trying to cross that gap. If it succeeds, it becomes evidence that green hydrogen can move beyond plans and pilots into real industrial infrastructure. And in a sector full of ambition but short on fully built supply, that kind of proof could influence the whole market. 6. The industries this could change. If this project works, its real impact will be felt in the hardest parts of the energy system. The IEA says hydrogen already plays a major role in refining, ammonia, and methanol production, and it is also being explored for tougher sectors such as shipping, steel, and heavy transport, where reducing emissions is much more difficult. That matters because not every sector can switch easily to batteries or direct electrification. Some industries need chemical feedstocks, others need very high heat, and some, like long-distance shipping, need dense fuels that can travel across oceans without constant recharging. That is why hydrogen-based fuels attract so much interest, not because they replace everything, but because they may help where other clean options struggle most. So the importance of NEOM is not really about everyday drivers or household appliances. It is about cargo ships, industrial plants, and the hidden backbone of the global economy. If green hydrogen can carve out a place there, then this project could help reshape the most difficult corner of the energy transition. 7. Saudi Arabia's new energy export strategy. This project matters for another reason too. It fits into a much bigger national shift. Saudi Arabia is not only building a giant clean fuel facility, it is trying to protect its place in the global energy system at a time when the world is slowly searching for lower emissions alternatives. That is what makes this more than an industrial development. For decades, Saudi influence flowed through oil exports. Now the kingdom is trying to stay important in a future where energy trade may look very different. Instead of asking how to defend the old model forever, it is testing how to remain central inside a changing one. And that gives the project a deeper meaning. If Saudi Arabia can adapt its export identity before the market fully changes, then this will look less like a side experiment and more like a strategic pivot. Not away from energy leadership, but toward a new version of it. 8. The obstacles beneath the promise. But no project like this moves forward without friction. Green hydrogen still faces one of the toughest problems in modern energy. It has to become commercially viable in a world where older fuels already have mature systems, established buyers, and cheaper infrastructure. That means the challenge is not only technical, it is economic, logistical, and political at the same time. Costs remain high, demand is still developing, regulations are uneven, and supply chains for this kind of fuel are far less established than those for oil and gas. Building the plant is one battle. Building a market around it is another, and that is why this story still carries real tension. A project can be bold, advanced, and beautifully engineered, and still struggle if the wider system around it is not ready. So the real test is not whether Saudi Arabia can build something big. It is whether the world is prepared to meet it on the other side. 9. If it works, what changes next? If the project succeeds, the impact may unfold quietly at first. It may appear through trade routes, industrial contracts, port activity, and the gradual arrival of cleaner fuel into sectors that have long been difficult to decarbonize. The shift may not look dramatic in one moment, but it could slowly redraw how energy moves around the world. That kind of success would send a message far beyond Saudi Arabia. It would tell governments, investors, and industrial buyers that green hydrogen is not limited to theory, small pilots, or conference stage ambition. It can become part of real cross-border commerce if the infrastructure, buyers, and export systems are strong enough. And that is where the story opens up into something larger. If one desert megaproject can help prove that renewable energy can be turned into a traded industrial fuel, then other countries with strong sun, wind, and capital may try to follow. And once that happens, the global energy map may begin to shift in ways we are only starting to imagine. So now, the question is not simply whether Saudi Arabia can build this megaproject. The real question is whether it can help reshape the future of global energy trade. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe. And tell us in the comments, could green hydrogen really change the world?